I'm clapping for myself because I deserve it. As also I try to figure out how to present. So nice to meet you, Saran. Thank you for the lovely introduction. I'm a huge fan of the Code Movie podcast, so I'm so happy to be a part of this and finally get to like chit chat. Can everyone see my screen? Are we ready, or is everything all good? Okay. Okay, I can start my introduction if everything's all good. And you can all just also take in my beauty while we wait and get everything settled. Some details on my gloves. I put A's for A+ in computer science. All right. Hi, I'm Analytical, the sickeningly entertaining and educational coding drag queen. And as I was just saying to everyone here, I am so excited to join you all at CodeLand. This is an event that wants to empower you on your learning journey and to motivate you to stick through those hard times along the process, which is something I spend a lot of time doing. So allow me to introduce myself. Day to day, I'm Billy. I'm an engineer at Google. I work on the Cloud Developer Experience team. I create tutorials, I give talks about databases, but then I transform into the glamorous drag queen Analytical. That's me right now. And I create educational technical content for people early on in their coding journey. I make videos with entertaining code examples and stories about my programming journey. I talk about issues facing the LGBTQ plus people in tech, such as terrible gender forms like this one, which allows you to say that your gender is a tax entity. That's not a gender, last time I checked, and I checked recently. And I give talks at inspiring conferences to developers around the world like this one. And thank you again for having me. Now, this might be many of your first time seeing drag. So drag is a way to play with self-expression, subvert gender expectations, and for me, get to bring 110% of my personality to the world. It has deep connections to the LGBTQ plus community, which I am a part of, happy Pride. But you can do drag regardless of your gender or orientation. And as a public drag performer and queer activist, I also want to throw a few disclaimers out there just to make sure everyone is informed and we're all on the same page. First, I'm only a representation of some of the identities in that alphabet of LGBTQ+, and I'm only one person, so I'm not a representation of even the identities that I do fall under, but I do want to be an advocate for the community. Also, I'd like to call out that doing drag is not the same as being transgender. And I want to call this out just because this is a misconception that can be really harmful and painful for our friends in the trans community. And I want to make sure everyone at CodeLand feels welcome and included. That being said, we do have some amazing transgender people who are fantastic drag queens, drag kings, and drag artists because anyone can do drag. And the same is true of coding. Anyone can code regardless of your identity. There are so many people who feel like a programmer has to be a certain kind of person, and many of you here might feel like you don't fit the mold or you're not like that kind of person, and you are wrong. If you're here, if you're interested in coding, you belong. And I really struggled to find my coding community for a while, but connecting with people is what CodeLand is all about. And we've got so many different talks here. As I was getting ready in drag, I was listening to all the really great talks and hearing about people's different experiences. And I think when you finish this conference, the thing you'll get most is hearing people's stories like your own, hearing their struggles along the way, and hearing how they struggled and how they were able to get to become the industry leaders that they are. You know, it's very easy to see someone far into their career and not know how to get there. I like to look for the seams. On a learning journey, though, this can be kind of hard. When something is so well made, it could be an app, a website, a meal, a dress, or even someone's success in their career. It's hard to see those little bits that look like something you can do. So I love that this event is a space where presenters and attendees can be vulnerable about our struggles and things we don't know. I have a very literal example here of looking for the seams. The Infinity Dress by Iris Van Herpen. It is a feat of fashion and engineering all rolled into one perfected garment. And I really want to hone my engineering and my drag skills to create something like this. So the other evening I was talking to a friend of mine who went to fashion school, and I said, I really want to make this dress. And he knew about it because it's kind of like, I don't even want to say infamous, it's famous, it's iconic, it is the moment, it's everything. And his first response was, that's impossible. And that really just made me mad. Coding and technology are tools, just like hammers, sewing machines, scissors. I don't want people to look at a technical problem and think it's impossible. It could be hard. It could be tedious. It could be time consuming. It could be expensive, but it is not impossible. Someone, Iris, and her huge team of collaborators has done it. So it's not impossible. It's been done. I said, okay, what if we break down this problem a little bit? It's kind of hard to find the seams here, but what if we simplify it a little bit? What about a dress that can have something spinning around it, some sort of motor, and maybe we can conceal the motor into the dress? And he kind of thought about it for a minute and he was like, yeah, I guess we could do that. That could be a good start. And in that moment, we found a way to unlock creating something special. Instead of having this problem make a whole dress, we now have two problems. Make a dress that can conceal a motor, and figure out how to program a motor. Both of these are concepts that we could handle. I just don't want to hear that something's impossible. Everyone at this conference is smart, and you really care about learning. So I have the confidence that we can tackle any challenge if we can break it down, learn bit by bit, and ask people for help. There are so many times on our coding journeys where you feel like you can't do something, you don't understand a concept, or you don't know how to go from your introductory level skills to building an actual thing. So as I was researching this dress, I came across a quote from one of the creators. And he said that it was a lot of work and didn't really even turn out how he initially thought it would. And he's the one who did a lot of the motion parts, and he designed and engineered the spinning piece around the dress. But it's a reminder that even at this kind of level, things are difficult. And even myself, as a coding icon, a keynote speaker at this event, I have so many things that I don't know. Like, I don't know how to program a motor still. So I know I could Google some tutorials, figure it out, but I don't know how to do it right now. And I've just learned that a great way to start on things is breaking down problems. So I would love if I could go to the next slide. I could show you my work in progress on this. I could show you my struggles on this. I could pan the camera down and show you myself in this amazing dress. But I can't do that. I have not begun working on this. It's just a good idea. It's something that's exciting me to learn. And I wanted to include you all in this process of something where I'm looking at a problem. I have some ideas on steps to solve it, but I haven't started yet. And I'm just excited and how I'm breaking down this new problem. But definitely stay tuned. We'll see if I make any progress. Maybe next year at CodeLand, I'll present it. So, I'm still on my learning journey. And I've thought a lot about this. And one of the things that helps me learn and helps people who watch my videos learn is looking at things from a different perspective. Finding a new motivation, finding a new challenge, finding a way to connect problems in a way that you can care about them and connect to them. So I want to give you a new perspective on some programming concepts today. And don't worry if you have never programmed before or you are an expert, I think you will enjoy these. These are something a little boring and a lot confusing on your coding journey, and they are data structures. There's a lot of different ways to organize your drag, so of course, there's a lot of different ways to store your data when you're coding. My wigs, they are an unorganized mess. I've got them on top of my storage unit right here. Some of them have fallen over, some are not on wig heads. This one was not on a wig head. Some of the other ones get taken care of nicely, but I only have one of each kind, and we can call this a set. It's an unordered data structure with all unique elements. The core functionality of sets is checking if something is in the set with a contains method. And if I want to go buy a new wig, I'd call add. But before I go and buy a new wig, I want to make sure I don't already have that one. So a set, when you're adding something, it uses that contains functionality to check before adding anything. And I only have room for a few wigs, and I think my boyfriend would get a little mad if I filled up a whole room with wigs. So you might have a set with a size limit, or at least the ability to check the size. And finally, you can remove wigs. And I have some wigs that I'm very glad I have removed and decommissioned. A little crusty, a little frizzy, but all part of my learning journey. I have a lot of drag though, so I prefer things to be more orderly, and I love my eyeshadow palettes for that. Or as I like to call them, eyeshadow arrays. There's a limited number of equally sized spaces for products, and the order they're in does matter. So I want to tell you I use that first color for my look. You can know which one I'm talking about. Typically, we can access elements with square brackets. And to get the first one, I go to element 0. Programmers are weird that we just start counting at 0, but we'll get into that another time. To get the last one ends up being a little more complicated because of that counting at 0. So we just go one back from the length of our array, and then we can get that last color. The same way we can get a color also allows us to change a color. Here, I'll set the first element to purple because purple just makes everything better. When we're ready to start applying our makeup, we can use a queue. This is another ordered data structure. The things I put in first are the things that come out first. And do I know something about coming out as a queer engineer? But I'll put the products in the order I do my makeup. I'll do foundation, then contour, then powder. I'll put them in the queue in that order. And then when I pull them out of the queue, I'll do them in that order too. Foundation, then contour, and then powder. Here, I will enqueue my eyeshadow because I do that once my face is done, and that step goes to the back of the line. If I want to do a step, then I will dequeue it from the queue. I can also peek at the item that's on deck. If I see that contour is next, then I'll probably want to go and grab my contour brush. Now, when my makeup is all done, my face is gorgeous, it's time to put on my wig, which is a stack of accessories. The first one I put on is the last one I take off, and the last one I put on is the first one I take off, which is the opposite of a queue. So to add an item to a stack, we push it. Here, I'll push my headband onto the queue, or rather onto the stack. And a great way to remember this is my headband keeps my hair pushed back underneath all my wigs. So that method for adding things into a stack is called push. Then I'll push on my wig cap. And finally, I'll push on the wig. To take an item off, we can pop it from the stack. And sometimes stacks will also have a peek method so you can see what's on top. Who knew that data structures could be so glamorous? I think this is honestly one of the hardest concepts when learning to code initially, but a lot of coding concepts were designed to represent things in the real world. So it only makes sense to connect the real world back to the code. And I connected it to something that I'm passionate about. You know, coding can be hard, but if you're able to connect it to something you know and understand, it helps it click. Use your imagination and see the world around you like code. All of you watching must have something you love, and that's a great way to think of a concept. If you're cooking, a recipe is an algorithm. While your chicken's temperature is less than 165 degrees, keep on heating it. Then take it out and enjoy. If you're playing baseball, every time you score a run, you've got an increment operation. Or maybe you're a scuba diver. I don't know. We all got different passions. If that oxygen tank is below 25%, start swimming up to the surface. I want everyone to be able to access computer science fundamentals and feel like there are people like them in the space. Because when I was learning to code, I didn't have these things, and I didn't have a community. So I want to show you my coding journey, get a little meta, show you where the inspiration for what I do comes from, as well as show you all of my scratches and bumps along the way. We are going back. I'm just looking at the preview for my next slide. We're going back to like 8th and 9th grade. You know, I did not wake up this glamorous and this good at coding I want to take you back. We're going back to like ninth grade before I could even code. And here, I still loved math and science and theater and music, and I also loved technology. I would run home when there were new iPhone launches coming out, and I'd have like 10 blogs open, reading them to make sure I wouldn't miss a detail. But I never put it together that I could build things like that or have a career working in technology. And I'd even seen things that were coding before. I did some coding in classes with Turtle programming and Scratch, and in games like Neopets and Second Life, which now if you're learning to code in games, you're probably doing Roblox and Minecraft. So I'd seen coding, but I couldn't really connect the dots of these things to building an iPhone app or a social media platform or making my own game. So a few years after that, I was in my junior year of high school, and I'd succumbed to the fact that I wouldn't have a career in tech. I would just go do something maybe with my math skills or my science skills. But at some point, my teacher brought up electrical engineering as a career. And I had never heard that term before, electrical engineering. Some reason I went to the Wikipedia page and it made everything click for me. It was so clear that this is something that people study. It requires some math and science knowledge that is already part of my curriculum and already things I've been doing. I was on the right track and I didn't even know it. I realized the majority of people don't even do that much computer science or engineering in high school. But I found this kind of frustrating. I was like, how am I going to know if I would like this? So I wanted to try it out, and I signed up for a summer introductory electrical engineering course. We went over things like how barcodes and QR codes worked, and truth tables and Boolean logic. It was my first time learning about the world around me in this way, and the concepts, they weren't the easiest, they were complicated, but they were understandable. And it was a moment where I could see the seams. It inspired me to take my first actual programming course. I was really lucky to have a high school that offered computer science, and we started out in processing, which is still a great starter language. We learned coding concepts to make drawings and add interactivity. We learned things like loops, and I really enjoyed it. So I took the next level, and we redid a lot of that material in Java. And I was able to build a blackjack game. And I had not begun my glamour journey yet, so it wasn't the most stunning, but I was able to build something, and I was proud of it. It was really kind of a revelation to me. Like, I'd always had an understanding of careers in things with math or science, English, history, the kind of the core 4 subjects, but computer science and engineering always felt different for me. The people I saw portrayed in media or magazines and newspapers seemed like they were these whiz kids who just like knew this stuff somehow, rather than people who signed up for classes like you do for most of those other things you're learning. Like, we tend to get things taught to us in classes. We're not going to go open our math textbook and learn algebra that way. We do it with our math class. I'm really glad I took those courses, though, because I went into college and studied computer science there. But I found myself asking these same questions. How do I build real things? And where is my community? I took a few computer science classes and I had really been enjoying it, but the material wasn't about building actual things. And while I'd made a good group of friends, I came from New York City, and compared to there, where I was in college, there is a dearth of LGBTQ+ folks in the engineering program and the computer science program. So what did I do? It took me a while to figure this out, but computer science and software engineering are not the same thing. Computer science is about solving problems with code, and software engineering is about building things with code. Don't get me wrong, huge overlap. You need a lot of the skills from both, and they transfer over. But it was kind of this thing of, oh, I want to learn to code. How do I do this? Oh, I took a computer science class. But if I wanted to learn how to build things, I was like, oh, I should just take a class in it. And I was lucky that my school had a few software engineering courses as part of the curriculum and electives. And that really helped everything click for me. It's a really good thing to know if you're thinking about a code bootcamp and how that compares to a computer science degree. First off, they kind of have very different timelines. So if you're in a place where you're ready to go to college or university, computer science program could be great for that. whereas boot camps tend to be 3 months or so, which is great if you're already working and need to learn this stuff fast. But boot camps, they're going to focus a lot more on software engineering and building things. And they're going to have those core computer science fundamentals so you know how to code. But they're also not going to be as math required, which is great because, secret, you don't really need a lot of math to be a software engineer, which is great if you hate math. Computer science programs are good though if you're in a place where you want that holistic education beyond just computer science. Maybe do some writing, philosophy, I don't know, whatever you want to do in college. And then you'll do those core computer science classes and go deeper on a breadth of areas. But make sure if you're looking for a CS program that they'll have some software engineering classes too. If they're going to take a few years of your time, you better have some skills for the real world, in my opinion. But then my other problem was finding community. And this came to me in the form of a targeted advertisement for a queer tech conference out for undergrad. It was a weekend of meeting LGBTQ+ college students from around the country. And I had never experienced this Venn diagram of LGBTQ+ people and technologists all at once, and with so many people. It felt really validating to realize that I wasn't so alone in this space, and I made some great friends. Finding conferences where you can connect with people like yourself is really validating, and is one of the reasons I wanted to be a part of CodeLand. CodeLand is putting so many unique voices on the stage, and I hope all of you can find speakers whose story resonates with you. I've been reflecting a lot on my journey, and there were kind of 2 things holding me back. Not understanding how people learned programming and not feeling like I'd fit in. These insecurities were holding me back. And yes, there were actual barriers I faced of not knowing the right things or not knowing the right way to learn or not seeing people like myself do it. And that's what analytical is for. Analytical is a direct message to my younger self and to so many people who have those same fears. I want people's first experience with computer science concepts to be fun and engaging. And when you step into that computer science classroom or that code bootcamp, you feel empowered and confident. From my presentation, you already know a little bit about arrays and stacks and queues. So you're already on a great track. You already know a little bit more than someone else going in. And I wanted to show that you can be technical and flamboyant. Those 2 things are not in opposition, as I've just given a technical talk at a big code conference in a bright green wig and bright orange and a flowery dress. I just want you to know that all of this is for everyone. I want to do my best to make sure people feel more than welcomed, but they want people to feel called in and shown that this is for them. Thank you so much for including me in your conference, Saran, and all the organizers. If you watching this liked what I had to say or my coding lessons, please be sure to stay up to date with all my latest content on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. You can find me on Analytical or The Analytical. And you can also just Google coding drag queen and I will come up. Thank you. I'm clapping for myself because we'd have a crowd. We'd have a huge crowd clapping otherwise, but this is the virtual conference life.